Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So this video is going to be about I'm the worst case I've ever seen symptom. So I've seen this a lot, especially with people with akathisia saying I'm the worst case I've ever seen, or I have a particular manifestation of akathisia or of withdrawal or adverse reactions that I've never seen before. That must mean I am particularly brain damaged, permanently brain damaged. This is something else. This is not from the drugs. I went through that. So when I went through my first SSRI withdrawal, one of the first symptoms I got was a looping mind. My mind would just loop on the same thing all day long. I would just have these images that would just repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat in my head from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to bed. And at 2.5 years off, I reinstated because I was like, this must just be severe OCD. It must be mental illness, even though I did not have this before any of the drugs or on them. But I couldn't find other people that had that exact manifestation of withdrawal symptom. And so that's why I reinstated. And then every drug I took 8 different drugs plus benzos and was cold turkeyed off everything. Everything in my mind just got worse and worse and worse. And so it took all of that reinstating and my symptoms to get so bad for me to realize it was the drugs all along. So it was like both a blessing and a curse. So, but I see people saying this all the time, and this is where I want to touch base on the forums, about the forums, because people will go on the forums and, a lot of times or most times, your intention is good. You're going on there to look for hope or read some success stories, and then you get into that, or you fall into that trap of, I have to find out who's the most protracted and where they are now, or I have to search in the search bar my exact particular symptom, and if nobody else has it, that must mean I'm completely screwed. Or if somebody does have it and then I go and read through the thread and then they just disappeared, well, that must mean that they're dead. I went through that for a very long time. So many others that I talk to go through that as well. And so you have to remember, and it took me a long time to figure this out and really believe it, the forums are just a snippet. So you can read through someone's, 80-page thread, but until you get into private conversations with those people, you will find that there is a lot of information missing in the thread. So I've had this happen many, many times where I'll be reading someone's thread, be completely panicked, and then I'll end up messaging that person, hearing back, and then talking to them on a regular basis and realizing that, oh, okay, they say that they've been drug-free for 4 years, but they actually were only off their first drug for 4 years, and then they came off another med that they forgot to mention, and that threw them into a second withdrawal, and they've only been off for 6 months. Or this person, has no idea why they have no windows, but then you talk to them and they're drinking alcohol, or they are, getting so fed up with their symptoms, they are just one-offing, random benzos, or they are, deciding that they want to try an antipsychotic for a week. They're having severe adverse reactions to that, but they're not mentioning that in their thread. And all of these things make a huge difference when you have a sensitized nervous system. If you're throwing more pills at it, you're throwing alcohol at it. I mean, all of these things can cause severe setbacks in people, severe adverse reactions that can complicate recovery. And if that's not mentioned in the thread, that's a problem. And so you can't take that at face value. And I see a lot of people panicking and going to very dark places in their mind because of this very thing. Like, I can't find anyone that has this exact manifestation of symptoms that I do, or, they just the way they describe things, I can tell that they're not as bad as me. And so that can become like this vicious cycle that people get into, and it just creates more and more and more fear, despair, doubt, hopelessness, all of those things, which isn't helpful for anybody. And like I said, that was my experience. That was something that I dealt with for a very long time, and it didn't do me any good whatsoever. And I just want to encourage you. I want to say too that no matter what, like, even if someone has, a label or a diagnosis of akathisia or tardive dyskinesia, dystonia, where they have outer symptoms, so, the involuntary movements, the pacing, the rocking, the tapping, the stomping, whatever they do as an outward manifestation, that still doesn't necessarily mean, like, especially in the case of akathisia, that they have a worse akathisia case than someone who has severe inner or mental, where it feels like their insides are exploding, and they just have this crazy restlessness, but they're not outwardly pacing. A lot of it is still based on how someone describes their symptoms. And so some people, like just the way they describe their symptoms, makes it seem maybe that they're not as bad or that they're worse off than other people because they're still, a lot of it is still based on symptom description because as I've mentioned in other videos, there's not, a blood test, a brain scan that can categorize, okay, who really is severe, who is extreme, and we can see that, physically. We can read that on a scan, we can see that on an MRI, we can see that on a SPECT, all of those things. It just doesn't exist for this. And so you have to remember that as well, is that people, the way that you're interpreting, they're not as bad as me or they're worse than me, and they don't recover, so this can be permanent. They still are describing their symptoms. I'm not saying any of this to take away from anyone's experience, minimize anyone's experience. I know that this is absolute hell for everybody involved. I'm just saying that you have to stay in your own experience, because if you start comparing and saying, this person is going to work, so they obviously aren't as bad as me, or this person is able to go outside their house, so they're not as bad as me. You have to stop doing that, because it will literally drive you crazy, and you will just spend endless hours on the forums. You have to figure out every single little piece in order to find that safety within your nervous system, which is completely raw. So I just highly discourage you from doing that. And I don't remember if I said it or not in this video, but if it's becoming an issue like it did for me, you can ask for a temporary ban. So specifically on Benzo Buddies, I don't know if you can on some of the other forums, but I asked Benzo Buddies to temporarily ban me because it was becoming such an issue where I couldn't stay off the forums, and I was just addicted to reading people's stories. Did this person recover? Did they finally see improvements? Are they getting windows, And it just becomes like, I would wake up in the morning and I'm like, okay, I have to log on to Benzo Buddies and figure this out. And it can become very toxic very quickly. So if that's something you have to do, do it. I did it and it was immensely helpful. So yeah, I just wanted to say that. I do think it's almost a symptom in itself, specifically for people with akathisia, or just maybe with everybody in this situation. I'm not sure, but that's who I tend to see it with the most. And it's just, there's no point in playing that comparison game, getting into almost like a competition with someone. Well, I'm worse than you and here's why, and I'm worse than that person and here's why I won't recover, because look at them, they could still, they were getting windows at 8 months and I'm not, so obviously this is permanent for me. You can really go down to and get into a dark place in your mind when you start to do that, and it really doesn't serve any purpose. It isn't helpful whatsoever. So I encourage you to stay away from those stories, and remember that you're not getting the whole picture a lot of the time. So anyway, I just had to talk about that because it's been on my mind, and I've just been seeing it a lot lately and hearing it a lot lately, and I just had to put my 2 cents in. So yeah, if you want to book a session, I am coaching, and so I will leave the link in the description, and you can book directly in my appointment calendar. Maybe I didn't even mention that at the beginning of this video. Sorry, I need to go to bed soon, but I am going to be coaching Monday to Friday from 1 to 5 p.m. Mountain Time. My rates are fairly low. I mean, if you're comparing to other places online, and so if you need just a one-time chat with someone who can give you some hope, or you're looking for something ongoing, then go ahead and check out, and you can just book directly on there. And I'm looking forward to chatting, because I just am unable to keep up with all of the emails and all of the comments, and I want to be able to answer everybody's questions. It's just a time factor. I'm just not able to do that. And I've had a lot of people ask me or request for chatting or coaching, and so yeah, I'm doing that right now. I'm not sure how long that's going to last, or how long my schedule will stay the same, because I am going to be starting with Dr. Joseph Witt-Doring's practice, but I can do coaching on the side. So I just wanted to mention that, and I hope everyone's doing well, and I'll see you next time. Bye.